Next week, a new League of Legends story will begin. Convergence, a League of Legends story, is a new game that follows one of League's most loved characters, reimagined in a most incredible way. I got to play the game and talk to the team behind it to find out why League fans should be excited. Alright, before we get into the video, you might have noticed that my background has changed. That's because I'm in London right now covering MSI. We've got a whole bunch of content to show you guys. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, then make sure you like the video and you'll subscribe to the channel for all the future content. At its heart, Convergence is a story about Echo and the city of Zorn. Echo has been in League now for 8 years, and the boy who shattered time has been a crowd favourite ever since, both on and off the Rift. His popularity reached new levels when he featured in the Netflix show Arcane. We learned a lot about his backstory as the childhood friend of Vi and Jinx, and member of the Firelights as they sabotage Silco's plans in Zorn. And now Convergence will cover another chapter in Echo's story.
Whoa! Easy!
You're done.
It's a story-driven, single-player 2D platformer with gameplay built around Echo's ability to manipulate time. It's made by Double Stallion, a Montreal-based studio, in collaboration with Riot Forge, and it's pretty f***ing dope. Starting in the Sump Sewers, Convergence follows Echo as he hacks, slashes, and slides through Zorn, the polluted undercity below Piltover in Runeterra, the fictional world in which League of Legends is set. He's tasked by his future self, no less, with saving his underworld home from a looming danger, battling familiar faces from League's cast, including Camille and Warwick. And we'll even get the chance to see Jinx in this game, which will be exciting for fans who want to see more of her torrid relationship with Echo. Although the game sees Echo jumping, hacking, and slashing his way through levels in the usual platformer style, Convergence takes things to a whole new dimension because Echo has time on his side. Echo's rewind ability makes him jump back in time for a few seconds, which allows the player to learn from their mistakes and tackle a challenge multiple times if needed. And this was something I particularly enjoyed when I got the chance to play the demo because, yeah, I was making a lot of mistakes. His parallel convergence ability slows down time in an area, which is useful for dealing with fast-moving enemies and projectiles. And if you recognize the name of that ability from League, well, that's because although he may be Echo by name in this game, he may be Echo by a slightly different nature than League fans will be used to. And this is something that the game's creative and co-art director Eric Angelillo talked to me about in more detail.
The most exciting thing to me when I think of myself as a fan of Echo, which I am as well, is that we were, because it's a single-player narrative-driven game, we were really able to recreate time rewind in a way that you could never do in a PvP game like League of Legends, which would be totally unfair, right? But in this game, you can, anytime you sort of have a slip-up or you make a mistake, or even if you didn't make a mistake, but you kind of want to take it again because you feel like there's a different approach you can take, you can kind of rewind a few seconds and try it again and do it even better.
But time isn't the only tool at Echo's disposal. There's his phase dive, which teleports him to his target for a slash attack. He can parry projectiles, use spin attacks, and fire off his iconic Time Winder as a ranged attack. As the game progresses, Echo can use workbenches with rare parts to create gadgets that upgrade his abilities. This customization allows players to tweak Echo to the playstyle they enjoy most. And the game is also just very pretty to look at. In between the moments of high-octane mayhem, there are intervals where you can really just catch your breath and appreciate how visually enthralling the game is, like when fireflies guided me through the darkness. Because for me, the vibrant art style shines through just as strongly in Convergence as its innovative gameplay.
With the art direction in particular, we really want to push this kind of his sort of worldview. Echo is a champion who's young, he's very kind of optimistic, heroic, and so he sees on as more than just this kind of polluted metropolis, but really as this vibrant city, and we try to reflect this in the colors and the neon accents and all that.
The whole experience really does feel like you're leaping through the panels of a comic book. When I first heard that the game was set in the dark underbelly that is Zorn, I was a bit concerned that the game could look drab and a bit bleak, but everywhere you turn, the game just pulses with brilliant RGB color and layers of 2D backgrounds with vibrant palettes palettes that stay true to the game's grimy setting. As I mentioned earlier, Convergence is just the latest collaboration between Riot Forge and a third-party developer to create spin-off games that are set in the League of Legends universe. This division of Riot has already produced the likes of Ruin King and Hextech Mayhem, with other titles such as Song of Nunu and Mage Seeker coming soon. And I have to say, it's incredibly exciting to finally see the Riot Forge train picking up some speed. Riot Games being a plural name used to feel like a bit of a meme back in the early days of League of Legends, but with the release of these titles, that seems like a distant memory. Or memery. Now, the cold, cynical view here might be that Riot is simply flexing its corporate muscle to break into every niche of the gaming industry. But to me, this is allowing gamers of every persuasion, no matter what genre of game they like, to get a taste of the League of Legends universe that has captivated people for a decade now. And from my talk with the folks over at Double Stallion, it seems like their collaboration was definitely a positive one.
I think working with Forge was just like a huge learning experience. So just working with such a great, like, huge IP as League of Legends was just really cool, and we worked really closely with Forge to kind of like build the game out and sort of like connect with the lore in a way that, you know, the stuff we learn and from that experience we can apply to our own IP in the future and the games that we're working on now.
Convergence, a League of Legends story, will be released on all platforms on May 23rd, and I have one question for you. Will you be playing it? Perhaps you've already played some other Riot Forge games and this is already on your radar. I have to admit that as someone who's only ever really played League and a little bit of TFT, I am genuinely excited to play this. Sometimes I get so wrapped up in the esports side of this world that I forget about the rich world that Riot has been weaving here for over a decade, but this might be the excuse to jump back into it. I used to play so much of Echo back in the day, specifically tank Echo, so you did no damage, but you were the most irritating champion in the game at that point. It was horribly oppressive. I would never wish to play against it, but I think it got me to platinum, tank Echo, so yeah, thank you Echo, big fan.